Alright, first of all, welcome to all of you guys for making it for this wonderful event, hopefully. So, this is like an impromptu event that we planned because, so when we, like our team of Beatoven, we have always been like a remote startup, and all our team members happen to come together at this facility. And what we decided is why not have like a small event while everyone is here and invite people who would potentially be interested in the field of music tech. So briefly to introduce myself, I'm Mansoor. I'm the founder and CEO of Beatoven AI and also a musician as a sitar player. So we have been building Beatoven for the past 1 year and kind of a pioneering music tech startup from India. So most of the times I'm sure like people who follow the music tech space, you'll see like most of the innovative companies come out of Europe. Likes of Spotify, Epidemic Sounds, or Ableton, any sort of tool that you hear which is like super massive in music creation or music listening, it's always been from the West. So we had this thing why not from India, we could build a potentially product for the globe. And with that motivation, we started this company a year back. And 1 year later, we have built a team and we are focusing towards the product and hoping to launch it very soon. And meanwhile, we decided we should have some event where we introduce you guys to this field and talk a bit about what's happening in the space. So we have a lot of things planned today. So we have talks by Siddharth, who's my co-founder. He's going to be talking about AI music generation. Also Ashish, who's from the founding team of Beatoven, is going to be talking about building web-based audio applications. And post these talks, we'll also be having small musical performances from teammates of Beatoven. So Tamish Pulappadi, he's going to be playing the guitar and also singing. We also have Abhik who's going to be singing his original compositions. And followed by, I'll be performing at the end, a small piece on the sitar. So yeah, that's basically what we have planned for the evening. And we have a small surprise. So while we were setting up, there's somebody who works here at Draper named Gumsar, and he just happened to tell us he plays the bassuri. And we were like, okay, why don't you just bring the bassuri and play something for us? And he plays fabulous. So we thought, let's start the event with Gumsar bassuri, and then you can do the talks. So Gumsar, Bhaiya, please.
Hey, cool. I'm Ashish. Yes, hi. I'll be talking about how do you build audio applications on web using web audio. So actually, it won't go much deep into how, but it's more like a primer and introduce you guys to if you were to build web applications that have audio capabilities, then how can web audio help you? I'll start by brief introduction of I'm Ashish and I'm a lead engineer at Beatoven. Um, been really fun working with this bunch of musicians and techies. So yeah, my background is full stack engineering, and although like I work across the stack, but my focus has been front end and infrastructure DevOps for a while. And web audio is something that I was doing on the side while I was working at my previous company. So I happen to be grateful. I'm grateful that like my past hobby, like side hobby, turned into a full-time job. Cool. So before we get into web audio, I would like to talk about like how audio applications are built usually. Not non-web applications, basically native applications. So generally, let's say if you're building a music application, like let's say right? So you would build your application in say C, C++, or even Python or Java. What you have to do is like you have to talk to OS-specific APIs, like core audio on Mac and ALSA on Linux. You could also like use cross-platform APIs, libraries like Port Audio, and then these APIs in turn talk to device drivers, and device drivers further take care of controlling the device hardware, which could be input or output in case of speakers. Right? The problem with this is, of course, like it's much low level, so there's of course learning curve involved, and because you're working with native APIs, often you have to like compile your application and distribute it for a particular target, like maybe Linux, Mac, or Windows. So that's where web audio comes in. So pretty much everything remains the same except your application, which is mostly written in JavaScript. It's talking to web APIs, web audio APIs, which are implemented in browser. So you don't have to worry about like whether I'm on Linux or whether I'm on Windows. Web audio APIs are just like other web APIs like WebRTC or Canvas, and they are available across most of the modern browsers. So you can just like use the APIs and build your application. So quick pros and cons. Audio applications that you build with web audio, they don't require any setup because like they're not they're cross-platform by default, and all you need is for example, if you're using Beatoven AI, it's a web application. You just type in Beatoven AI in your favorite browser and it loads. You don't have to install it. And that makes it easy for distribution for developers, and it's also good for users because they don't have to like go through the hoops of like setting up, downloading the application, setting up the environment for the application to work. So all of that hassle goes away. And then of course, because everything is inside browser, they are OS agnostic. Like you don't have to, as a developer, you don't have to care about whether this feature will work on Linux or Windows or not, right? There are minor differences between. Is that better? There are minor differences between browsers, but they can be managed. Like usually, as a web audio developer, I've seen Safari being a pain in the ass, but you can still manage it. The Safari team has been working very actively on like improving web audio structure. And web audio also became like W3C recommendation recently, so like we can expect more browser vendors to like comply with the spec. And of course, like I mentioned about the learning curve, when you know Java, if you're a web developer and you know JavaScript, learning web audio becomes really easy, especially because there are a lot of nice libraries available, like Tone.js, for example. That's how I got started. With Tone.js, you don't have to, like learn about the core APIs, and what it does is exposes the APIs, web audio APIs, in terms of I want to create this kind of music. I want to like play this note at this point of time. So it makes a lot of those things easier rather than like working with, instead of when you're working with the web audio APIs typically. So while your application can be built in JavaScript, with the latest developments in like browser tooling and things like WebAssembly. You can also have an interoperable app which can work with, let's say if you wanted to use a library, mature library which has audio effects and it's not in JavaScript, so what do you do? With WebAssembly, you can actually compile that library into a WebAssembly target and load that into your application, and you can basically just work with it just like any other JavaScript package. So that opens a lot of doors. I can work with state-of-the-art encoders, effects, filters, and things which have been mature and written in, let's say, C++. So yeah, that's very handy. And coming to the cons, depending on who you talk to, you'll hear number of cons. But frankly speaking, for me, the only con that probably can be a deal breaker in some cases is the performance. It's not native yet, although it's coming close to native performance. So if you're and you have there is tooling to make it performant enough that it can be not really beat but come close to the native performance. But again, that requires some work. You have to architect your app in a way that it can work in multiple threads and use the newest features that WebAudio has to support. And again, that's possible, but it's not. It doesn't come out of the box. So we talked about pros and cons and what WebAudio is. Let's think about what can be built with WebAudio. Simply speaking, anything entirely web-based that you have audio in can be built with WebAudio. So think of music applications like applications that would be targeted for musicians to create music or manipulate, edit music, or think of web-based games. You don't have to include, in yesteryears you would have to work with Flash and stuff like that. Now you don't have to worry about that. You can control the music very efficiently and effectively, and your code doesn't get messy. So all of those things become much easier. And the last is one of the things that is possible is of course the generative art and audio visualizations. With WebAudio, I think because the learning curve is smoother, it has also given a lot of, it has opened a lot of doors for artwork to be created on the web, and because it automatically makes it easy to be consumed, and because JavaScript's learning curve is smoother, it has been easier for people with creative interest to get into it and build some applications. So generative art and a lot of visualizations have been possible. So on a broad level, the capabilities that WebAudio gives you is audio synthesis. You can create your own synthesizer, create sound from raw wave parameters, and you can also WebAudio by default provides a lot of filters and effects that you can use, convolver, compressor, and such. And you can also use analysis features of WebAudio. Basically, turn an audio sample into run it through an FFT and look at what frequencies are there and have a visualization or anything that you want. So yeah, that's you can think of various possibilities around that. So having talked about all of that, I won't go through the APIs because there's an introductory talk. I would rather talk about some applications that I would like to some applications which I saw at first when I was getting introduced to WebAudio, and that made me dive deeper into it. So first application, this is also one of my favorites, and I think people who are into music tech and WebAudio, I think this might qualify as their favorites when it comes to WebAudio. So this is basically a web-based DAW. So think of GarageBand, but web-based. Again, all the advantages of WebAudio comes into play here. You don't have to set up anything. It's targeted for amateur musicians and like podcast creators, which also means that nobody has to they don't have to set up anything, and getting started is just as easy as going to soundtrack.com and signing up. That's it. And there's also kind of like a state-of-the-art implementation of web audio because it supports pretty much anything that you can think of, almost anything. And I've actually met with developers at SoundCloud, and they literally move as they literally progress as web audio API progresses. So which is like fun to look at. The next app that I want to talk about is more like a fun and entertaining thing, and it comes in the generative art realm. This is called Audiograph or XYZ. Again, I'm not showing any of these, but you guys can like go through these websites. They're fun to like play with. Audiograph.xyz is like an artwork that is done by a generative artist, quite well known, but I don't remember the name. Basically, this is like a audio visualization of an album that an artist released, and this basically demonstrates like how web audio API can be used to create immersive art forms on the web, which are much more accessible than like if you were distributing them as native apps or something else. Pastel loops. This is kind of like a self-promotion because I worked on this a while ago, and the idea of this app came from basically a desire to turn visual artifacts like paintings into music, and from there on it became like an intuitive and like natural user interface to create music, like an easy way to create music. So this is nothing but like a canvas on which I can use my cursor to freely draw anything. I can select colors which will affect the scale that I'm drawing in, and where I draw in the canvas, the coordinates define which node is selected, and I can change the texture, which will change the texture of sound. So yeah, basically everything combined, it seemed like a project which I could give to my nephew maybe, and like let him play with it. And yeah, I would like to actually. So yeah, this is where you land when you open Pastel loops. There's some defaults selected. Let's say I want to compose something on major chord. I'm feeling happy. Then I can just draw. Like it plays, it gives instant feedback as I draw something, or you can also, I can change the texture. Should I change the tempo? So like you can notice that as I change the texture, the sound also changed. I wanted to mimic something like with a thinner brush, you would have like a plucky percussive sound, and the smoother brush would have something like a smooth, like a wind instrument kind of sound. So that's how it works. And I can play everything once after. Yeah, you guys can also play if you have some crazy ideas. I would love to hear about it. So this was a while ago. And this is what I'm working on right now, Beatoven. who haven't used it, Beatoven is a tool that we're working on for content creators to create their own background music from AI, with AI. And while a lot of composition work that we do happens on the back end using our algorithms, which Sid might talk about or not, I don't know. but yeah, the compositions that happen on the back end, we play them on the front end. It's entirely web-based. We do some stitching of audio and like manipulations. It's very basic right now. As we get more features, the use cases might get more complex. But yeah, we're using web audio to do some client-side manipulations which happen after the composition is done, like volume automation, and like we do some kind of mixing in a very simplistic manner, basically combining tracks and giving the final output. That's all I can talk about so far. And yeah, that was it. Free to like take any questions right now, or like if you guys have any want to discuss anything, if you want to go deeper into any of the aspects that I talked about, I'm around here, or you can also connect with me on the internet, of course. Cool. Thanks. Any questions?
So the DW part that you mentioned in the beginning, does that like can we interact with it using a video platform like normal DWs? I can attach it USB to my laptop and give a visible instrument into the software.
To the soundtrack?
The
soundtrack. Yeah. I'm not sure exactly, but I'll have to check.
So what's the input source to your DW?
So here, when I've used it in like sample projects, when I've created some tracks from Soundtrap, it's mostly around like the loops and like music samples that they provide. I haven't worked with like giving an input source from a microphone or something. Yeah.
But I think the recent development they do a lot.
Exactly. So that's what I'm concerned about. I was concerned about the latency part of it. If you are allowing an input from the physical device, then I would love to know the latency part.
Right. So actually,
not in the processing of the
yeah. So there has been work around like web USB and web MIDI, which allows you to connect your MIDI device, for example, and if they are using that, then maybe that input is supported.
I can reach out to you for that, right?
Yeah, you can play around with it together.
Because I have projects on MIDI.
Okay.
MIDI is the same.
Sure.
Do you have any benchmarks on how fast the processing is not like
I don't have the numbers, but there's a very detailed analysis which I can share with you.
I don't think so that I would be enough audible. Yeah. So like this question was like a bit more complicated in my head, so I'm trying to simplify that. For example, like for beginner like if I am thinking of studying a guitar, at first I have to learn the strings, right? And what sort of strings for providing, which sort of music. This is something which happens over time, right? It actually takes a lot of time, and I'm not a geek, tech geek. So what I've seen that the colors and with the brushes, you're seeing the music, which is like popping out, right? And if I want to like make some music, then I have to like, go through with all over that sort of work to go to the details of the colors and which sort of colors are like eradicating which sort of music, and I have to learn this procedure. So is it something you think that that would be worth enough, or that would take much more time? How much time would it take to learn that overall that backend stuff? And what are the credentials like on that? On what basis you're choosing that color and that music? Accreditations or something like that. So if you're getting my words, how long it will take to get that stuff on the line?
It may be useful or it may not be useful. Like I think one of the ideas was just get kids excited. Like that was my user testing so far. somebody wants to get like serious about music, maybe they basically what you said, right? Like learning all the colors and then mapping it with music might not be the most optimal thing, but it will at least get them
So
started.
is there be any specific procedures to learn that? Because I've seen
No, it will be hidden. It will be hidden. Like you'll have to try colors and see what sound is
So
coming.
it's more of a fun thing, right?
Yeah. Fun and games.
Any more questions?
Thank you.
Thanks, Ashish. Alright, up next we have Siddharth, who's going to be talking about AI music generation.
Hi everyone, I'm Siddharth. I'm the co-founder and CTO at Beatoven AI. I'm also the co-founder of Music Tech Community India. And I would like to tell you a bit more about the Music Tech Community India, which is the initiative for all music makers, music technologists, musicians, artists to combine under one single forum. And you can follow our social channels or follow our website. And that's a bit about Music Tech Community India. And I'm going to talk a bit about AI music generation, a brief history in academia, in the industry, in the music industry specifically. So imagine a generative music box, a black box with a single button and single sound output. What would it produce? Let's say it has how much capabilities it has. What kind of questions will pop up into your head? So what does this button do? How much power does it have? Can I open it? Can I see what's inside? Can I play around with it after opening it? There are some ethical questions as well, like do I have access to the music which I'm listening to? Is it legal? Have I heard this before? Is it plagiarized or not? So what all can I do with this? Can I perform live with this? Can I create music with this? So I'll show you some demos of what the capabilities have been and how it has evolved over time. So the first video is from 1962. It was part of the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's a completely computer generated or computer synthesized voice. Yeah, so this was generated in 1962 with very limited computer capabilities by Max Matthews from MIT. And the second one is, so that's one use case, which is synthesis of audio, when you just have the text or some form of written down lyrics or score. The second is a jamming session between a human and an AI. You can't see here, but the piano plays itself. So that's another use case, just using it as your jamming partner. The third one is a reharmonization of an existing track. So this is pretty recent after the advent of machine learning and AI. So this reharmonization is done in the style of Bach. Then lower the volume and play the next video. It's a heavy metal track. It's a 24/7 live stream on YouTube by Dada Watts. So it's completely AI generated and it constantly keeps on generating more and more. It's not noise, but you can still feel the vibe of material. So that's another use case, generating whole tracks without any human intervention. The next one is just morphing between two different, very different styles of music. So this is done in the sample space, not in the audio space. So it also has very interesting forms, like going from very Indian sound to a very metal sound. You can check out these videos later. The next one is a completely AI composed piece, but performed by human. It's a folk song. So I have also tried doing this, just generating something and trying to play it on a piano, but sometimes it generates weird combinations which are not even possible with like human fingers. So, which is pretty interesting that they can create some new interesting compositions which are not possible otherwise. The next one is just a AI embodiment of a piece generated by music and also produced by humans. They do even concerts, VR concerts, etc. with AI artists. So this is
I never felt alone. You never said a word.
this is completely
I
synthesized
fell
voice.
from my throne. You didn't want me there. You didn't want me near.
And the last one is a pretty complex piece of jazz music generated by AI, but synthesized using plugins itself. So these are like different kinds of use cases, starting from synthesizing something to jamming to reharmonization. You could produce different styles of music from jazz to metal. Also, if you cannot compose but you have these skills to play it, you can do that as well using AI generated pieces. Some of the limitations that are very apparent once you go through all of these pieces of music is the lack of a long-term structure with music. So short pieces sound pretty good most of the times, but once you see the returning patterns after 2 minutes, those aren't possible with AI yet, unless explicitly stated. Then quality is sometimes, it's a hit and miss basically. Then these are mostly black box models with very little customizability possible. So whatever AI gives you, you have to accept it or reject it, but you can't do much with it. Or you have to go to another DAW like Soundtrap or GarageBand and make it actually listenable. Then accessibility for non-programming musicians is something that a lot of people are trying in academia as well as in the industry. Musicians or even non-musicians, as we at Beatoven are trying to do. Then these models are trained on whatever data, so that bias they inherently have, and it's difficult to generate like entirely different or newer pieces of music. Then tools that are not personalizable, then evaluation of these generated pieces of music, that is again a difficult problem. How to evaluate those, since most of the music is actually composed by humans and already pre-evaluated. These pieces are generated by machines, and it depends if you are into experimental stuff or not, at least till now. Then there are ethics concerns for, as I mentioned earlier as well, so for plagiarism, how new or how original these pieces of music are. Then who does the copyright belong to? If it's trained on 100,000 pieces of let's say historical musical data, who does the copyright belong to? So these are concerns that definitely needs to be sorted out before it becomes mainstream. Now the three, I will give you a brief overview and timelines, historical timelines in the academia, or the which is where they state this as a computer science problem, building newer and newer models, building better models to model the structures in music, to model the sounds in music, timbres in music. Then there is the business problem, how commercially viable it is, how industry startups are making it accessible to non-musicians or musicians alike. Then there is the music problem of how good the music is, how are the musicians actually using it in their process of songwriting, and how to evaluate those pieces of music if there is no human in the loop. So this is a brief overview of AI in music tech in the academia. So there are basically two types of models. One is the waveform based models, one is the MIDI based models. Waveform based models are difficult, slow, large, because as you guys might know, music is, for 1 second of music, you need 44,100 data points to get a good enough quality of music. So just processing that much amount of data points for, let's say, even a 1 minute track is huge. It requires building huge models, having a large amount of data, and again, copyright is an issue for getting that data. So these models have been slow in their development. Also, as you can see, Google, OpenAI, all the big organizations are the only ones that can afford researching on this. The MIDI-based models, there have been a lot of research on that side because of the availability of open data. But they have their own issues. One is the robotic sounding MIDI format. The other being, it's again just opening up those black boxes and seeing what's happening inside those with the MIDI data. It's really difficult, and getting actual good quality, actively listenable music, it's very, very difficult to get out of the MIDI based models. A few of the very interesting projects, if you guys want to try out, would be Google's Music Transformer. They produce very good quality piano music, drum music, and you can, all of the code is also open source, so you can try those out as well. Then in the waveform domain, OpenAI's Jukebox, they trained on a huge data set of historically available music, even Beatles, Led Zeppelin, everything, and you can generate in the styles of those artists. So I've tried, I created a playlist as well, but sometimes or some parts of the music are good, but overall the sound doesn't track, the sound is not listenable. In the startup space or the music industry space, it basically all started with UTech, which was founded in 2012, and they won a competition of AI music and started an AI music composing service. That was with the advent of machine learning and newer models which were built out that time. But they took a long time and developed along with the technology right at the forefront of it. Then Amper Music was a very similar service that was launched in 2017. That was again based on the same premise of like generating X duration of soundtracks. And then Lander was a pretty innovative service which did automatic mixing. It was also launched in 2017. Then Mubert and Endel were slightly different generation of music tech startups which were doing this for generating infinite music for focus and relaxation and other use cases like fitness, where you need just constant ambient kind of music, which was a pretty good use case for AI music since that doesn't need long-term structures. It doesn't overcome those limitations, but it plays along with those limitations. Then Melodrive was launched in 2018, which was building this AI generated music engine for games. So you could have dynamic music inside of your games. And then Iva is again similar to Juptech and Amper. Then Boomi came out in 2021. So these guys, what they are essentially doing is they are letting users create lots of tracks, add their own voices to it, distribute it to all of the streaming services and earn revenue from it basically. Then Beatoven, some self-promotion there, but yeah, we launched last year also. And we are trying to overcome some of the limitations like making it very, very customizable for users, trying to open the black box or like build the black box rather piece by piece and let content creators create original soundtracks with it, have a lot of customizations like energy levels, volume levels, or even instruments, what kind of instruments they want, what kind of genre they want, moods they want. So we are trying to help them create in any way they want or whatever way they like, trying to reach the sounds in their head. And this is the most important use case, which is creating music for active listening. So quite a few musicians have started experimenting with this generative music tools but most of these they have trained these models on their catalog of songs, which overcomes the copyright limitation, and as well as it produces music in their styles. One of the most innovative artists I found is Holly Herndon, who released an album in 2019 called Proto. So she has her own voice model trained on like hours of data which she has provided to the model, and she also like lets you play around with her voice model, and you can generate outputs, create NFTs out of it, buy them. Then another one was DataBots, which I showed you, the metal 24/7 live thing. So they also have a few other generative music live streams on YouTube. So those are just that is just a duo of artists, and these guys keep basically their tool or their instrument of choice is coding. Yeah. So can AI be creative? It's a difficult question, but yeah, the real question is, can we be creative with AI? Thank you. Yeah. Do you have any questions?
Hello. Yeah. So, how do you ensure like every music that a model generates, it is not replicable or it's not related to the previous one it has generated? The novelty. So basically, even a 10-second of will be a copyright, right? So how do you ensure that?
Right. So the data we train our models on, it's owned by us. We source it through musicians around the globe, and so that is one level of defensibility or like defense we have against plagiarism. Then the second thing which we plan to do is to have so there are these automatic content recognition technologies like Shazam, wherein you can put in a track and check whether it's plagiarized or not, whether it exists in the historical database of music or not. So that we plan to integrate with our tool. Thanks. Yeah, any other questions?
What's your opinion on in what domains AI would probably replace the human presence, and in what domains humans will still thrive as much as we do today, like when it comes to the actual skills and creativity of music.
So my opinion is this.
Yeah, that's your message, I believe. But like, do you have any what do you envisage for the future, where the human aspect will be in danger?
So I think also along with the art piece, the story matters a lot. So that story needs to be alive or living, in my opinion. So that has to come from the human aspect of it.
Any other questions? Yeah, I think
So sorry buddy for asking one question. Sure. So recently I was reading a book of like how mind works. So Steven Pink, I think the writer was. So it says that how AI won't be able to surpass human intelligence on certain basis. Like how it would be easy for AI or the people who are working on the AI for some time, at least for a decade or something like that. That why AI won't be able to. So can we be creative with AI? Is something is that music. When we talk about music, you can suppose like we can take 10 music right now, and we can make it a person can make a certain sort of rhythm out of that 10 music. But AI, क्योंकि हमें समझ में आता है, because we understand that the rhythm we are making right now with the amalgamation of that 10 music is something which is like attractive for me. AI is not a person; it's like a whole, concentration of different sort of programming and something like that. So I think that AI is something which won't be. I'm not generalizing this fact, but it's a very different. It's a very so Alexa का जब आप बात करते हैं Alexa, Amazon was like suffering with that same sort of problem. That how Alexa would be able to capture that voice, and out of billions of that algorithm, how exactly we would be able to precisely put that point, that what exactly they're seeking for. So eventually there are plans for 100 billion, और उसके बाद वो $1 billion पे चले गए, just to solve this problem. And when we are talking about the AI, I'm just not generalizing that this is not vibe or something not like that, because I'm really hooked up with this thing. That's why I did that previous question. But here, music is something which is like a whole point. It's a philosopher rather than being psychological, where we have to deal with a certain sort of subjective issue. So can we be creative with AI? AI can actually open a whole different sort of potential in the music field. Like rock music was also a phase. उससे पहले गिटार चलता था, सितार चलता था. But right now, I think it will take a lot of money, a lot of effort to put concise efforts. Suppose there's a line, there's a color, then you are like matching the music out. Right? अगर उसे आप balance कर सकते हैं, then there are a lot of creative artists, and it will be a whole different field where you are merging the AI, the colors, and making a whole different artifact at the same time music. So there are some limitations which will conclusion. There are some limitations which has to be worked, which needs to be worked quite a lot with a lot of.
Yeah, definitely. So for active listening, if you are going on Spotify searching for a particular track which is created by AI, currently it's for novelty. It's not because you just like that piece of music. But I feel we are heading in that direction where human AI collaboration will produce such amazing tracks, because humans or musicians historically have used whatever tool have come their way in a very, very creative way. Be it a sampler, be it a mic, be it any kind of synths, etc. So we as humans tend to overpower that and use it for our own benefit or for whatever sound we have in our head, let's say. So newer genres will be born out of it definitely, but I'm not sure, and I'm not of the opinion that AI will be producing huge amounts of music and we would be listening to it for actively listening to it. Yeah, any other questions?
So I'm a little curious about how you train the model. So what kind of genres do you choose when you are creating a model? So the output that you generally get, right, is based on the kind of genres that you choose and train. So how do you refine this, and how do you, like if you want to create various genres of music, so how do you train the model?
So for different genres, different kinds of models work well. Like for example, ambient music, as I told you, it doesn't have a long-term structure to it. So you need not have a lot of memory within those models. So you need not train LSTM for it. But something like let's say pop music that has a very defined structure, so that could have a very shallow memory and still could generate very good pieces of music. So the choice of models or choice of the algorithm which you pick depends on these genres. For jazz, it would be a very, very heavily biased toward like improvisation. So you need newer and newer things to happen, and like happen at a lot of frequency as well, like very quickly and very fast. So it all depends on the genres, but like the choice of models could be different based on it. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Sid. Okay, so now we'll get started with next part. Yeah, we'll just need 5 minutes to set up, and now we'll begin with the performances. So the first performance is Abhik Chatterjee from our team, and so Abhik is a singer-songwriter. Also, he does a lot of creative work at Beatoven AI. So we run a social media on YouTube and Spotify and all of that stuff, and all the creatives that you see going out, the videos is created by Abhik. So looking forward to Abhik's performance.
So imagine this universe. It's a metaverse, okay? And gods and humans here. So the script, it's called scriptures. That's what we call the scripts. The song is called Scriptures. Just trying to get it into context. It's a mixture between English and Bengali.
Far away, this away, that brings steel. And I know that you'll go, that you'll stay. I'm trusting you. And my doubts that bubbles in the rain. And yet, I'm gonna ask you again. Why do you speak in scriptures? Why do you talk in rhymes? When am I getting to meet you? Just to say goodbye and stay high. Bhashate, bhashate, jule. Chale rakho, ashate ashe kaliye ashe rakho, dhara debo ami bheche jabo anete, dohai amare dekho. Speaking scriptures, body talking rhymes. When am I getting to meet you? Just to say goodbye. Stay high. Stay.
Thank you so much, Abhik. Up next, we have Tamish. So, Tamish joined us as an intern. He's just finished his 12th standard. And he's going for his undergrad to Stanford University for bachelor's in music technology. And so Tamish is actually a very reputed guitarist, by the way. So he's endorsed by guitar labels from the US and a very good guitarist. So I think Tamish, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. So good evening everyone. The first song that I'll be playing is a really somber acoustic song. It's called River by Leon Bridges. I hope you like it.
Been traveling these wide roads so long, babe. Our hearts will fall for you. 10,000 miles gone, babe. every part of me. Well, there's blood in my hands and my lips are agreed. In my darkness I remember Mama's words reoccur to me. Surrender to the good Lord and He'll wipe your slate clean. Take me to your river. I'm gonna go. Go, yeah. Take me to the river. I wanna go. I wanna know. Yeah. I wanna go. I wanna know. Baby, I wanna go. I wanna take you to your river. I wanna go. I wanna go, wanna go. I wanna go. Take me to your river. I wanna go. Thank you. This next song that I'll be playing is by Ed Sheeran and it's called 18.
Thank you so much. All right. So yeah, to conclude the evening, I'll be performing. So I'll be playing some of my original compositions on sitar. I'm going to play some music which is completely different from what you guys heard before, which is primarily based on classical music. So these are some of my own compositions. It's instrumental music, and so the first one I'm going to be playing in this rag called Bhageshri. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy it. To conclude, I'll be playing one last composition. This is in a happy scale. So this is based on the rag called Gauti. And there's a popular song which you guys will relate to. I play it, so you guys will know that this is based on this song. Thank you so much. That's about it. Also, like for all of you guys who just came for this event, thank you so much for joining us on this evening. We'd like you to scan, and just give me your details on the QR code here. So we'll keep you updated on further events from Beatoven. Thank you so much.